Lesson 5.6, Law of Cosines. Another way to find the missing sides and angles in a triangle. Now, majority of the time, law of sines works for a certain type of triangles. Law of cosines works for other certain types of triangles. In the beginning of a problem, I don't think, like as we look at this first problem, we don't have an option to use law of sines in this first problem. Okay, because if you glance down at example 1, what do you have to know to use law of sines?
Angles.
Well, angles, but specifically if you know, and one of your sets of information has to be an angle with matching side, right? You have to know either your A's, your B's, or your C's. We don't have a pair here. Okay, so law of sines doesn't work to start these. Now, not to say that in the middle of a problem, you couldn't switch to law of sines. That is a possibility. Okay, you get started with law of cosines, you get what you need. You could switch to law of sines. Now, I'm going to encourage us, we need to learn law of cosines. That's our goal right now. So that's what I'm going to encourage us to do. If we start a problem with law of cosines, I'm going to suggest sticking with it. But, I'm not going to argue, yes, law of sines has options in here. Now, law of cosines reads the same at the beginning as law of sines. In any triangle ABC with angles A, B, and C, opposite sides A, B, and C respectively, the following equation is true. Now, same triangular setup. Notice we have 3 different variations of law of cosines. They're all 3, it just depends on what is given, okay? They all have the same general setup. And you'll notice, for instance, okay, they all use all 3 sides. So like this first one, A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times cosine of angle A. Notice that used sides A, B, and C, and then it used angle A. You'll notice if it begins side A squared, that it uses angle A. And then sides B and C are here in the middle. This one is just the variation, just reorganized. This one is the one that uses angle B. Notice it begins side B squared. B squared equals, you've got the A and C in the middle, so A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine B. This one begins with side C squared, ends with cosine of angle C. You've got A's and B's in the middle. Okay, they're all the same thing. Get proficient with this, and if you know one, you know all of them. Does that make sense? Right now, I know that's not where we're at. But it's just as long as you know one, you know the others. Okay? Now, a couple important keys when solving with law of sines. First of all, these setups we're talking about are side angle side and side side side. These were the 2 setups that were excluded from law of sines. Law of sines did not cover these setups because they just don't work. Law of cosines will. 2 key points. The key with solving law of cosines problems is you must find the smallest angles first. Okay, that is a must. Okay, if you have multiple angles to find in a problem, you could have to find all 3 angles. You must start at the smallest angle and work your way up. Make the biggest angle the one that you find by just subtracting from 180. Okay, and the reason being, law of cosines isn't going to find you an obtuse angle. So if an angle is supposed to be obtuse, that needs to be the one that we subtract from 180. Okay, so beware of that. We'll have that come up. I'll talk about it lots. Some of you will still forget. Find smallest angles first. The other key piece of information. Remember, this is just basic triangle knowledge that we've probably forgotten. 2 sides of a triangle must add to be larger than the 3rd side of the triangle. So the 2 smaller sides of the triangle have to add to be larger than the 3rd side of the triangle. That's not a law of cosine problem. That's just basic math. It's physically impossible to take 2 shorter sides and form a triangle with a 3rd side that is longer than those 2 together. Physically impossible. Okay? So that is the other piece of information, is that 2 sides of a triangle must be larger than the 3rd side. If that basic piece of information isn't true, you can't make a triangle. Okay, it's not possible. Okay. Shall we jump into example 1? Okay. So example 1 is going to be a example solving with side angle side. Now, they give us an angle and the two sides on either side of it. You can draw a picture, but I'm also going to say you don't have to. As long as we know it's side angle side and that law of cosines applies, which we'll figure out very quickly, excuse me, you don't have to draw a picture. Now, I'm going to, so we have something to reference, and I want you guys to see this is indeed a side angle side. Okay? If I tend to make this angle over here my given. So if C is 20 degrees, that means that opposite side is C. We weren't given a C, were we? And then A and B are my other sides. I'm going to pick this to be A and this to be B. Okay? Now, were we given a side angle side setup? Yeah. Side, angle, side. So that is indeed a side angle side setup, which is one of the two pieces that works with law of cosines. Now, based on what we're given, which version of law of cosines must we start with? We're given sides A and B and angle C. Okay, the one that has angle C in it, yes? Because we're given angle C, we're going to start with the bottom version, which is C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine of angle C. I know that's the one I'm using because that's the one that takes angle C. Okay? Fill in your information. C squared equals 11 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times 11 times 5 times cosine of 20 degrees. So what does it appear I'm finding? It appears I'm finding side C, right? Okay, let's do some math. 11 squared is 121. 5 squared, 25. Minus, what's 2 times 11 times 5? Okay, so minus 110 cosine of 20 degrees. There's one more step I can do before I have to go to the calculator. What can I put together? 121 and 25 is 146 minus 110 cosine of 20 degrees. Can I subtract 146 and 110? No. I cannot because 110 is attached to cosine of 20 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to have to go to the calculator here.
Do you have to write all that out?
And I'm writing everything out for notes and everything. I agree as you get into this, there are some, you can skip some pieces, but I'm going to warn, don't skip too much. That would be my thing. Okay. You need to start off writing off the initial. I have to have it. Don't just jump in and give me something halfway done. Because that's going to, I'm just going to count your problem wrong if you miss it. Okay? I need to see some work along the way. However, can you skip some of this simplifying? Yes. Okay? Now, before I go over to the calculator, what do I know about finding C? We're going to have to square root, right? So I'm going to have to do this in the calculator, but I also know c squared. In order to get from c squared to c, we're going to have to do the square root of 146 minus 110 cosine of 20 degrees. Okay? Grab your calculators, do some practice with me, folks. Okay. Couple of things to consider. If you're someone that says, oh, well, I had already typed in, did some of you go ahead and type in and get that 42 number? Okay, that's fine. You remember how to you can go ahead and do square root, and then what can I do? We can just arrow up and copy it down, right? So I can just arrow up and I can copy that right there. Or I could have also arrowed up and copied that right there. You know, either way, you end up with the answer of what? 6.5. And that is side C. Okay? So far, so good. Practice the calculators, know what you're doing here. More so important on the next piece, but this piece too. Okay. So what do we have left to find? We found C. We now need to find angles A and B. Okay. What do you want to find first? Why? How do we know angle B is going to be smaller than angle A? Okay. First of all, remember what I said. You must find the smaller angles first. And I'll be honest, are there times that you can forget to do that and still be okay? Sometimes, if all your angles are going to be acute. But if you forget on an obtuse angle, you're going to run into problems. And I don't remember if you just get the wrong answer or if you get an error in the calculator. I don't remember which way it works. But because side B is smaller than side A, I need to find angle B. Which equation allows me to find angle B? The one that has cosine B, yes? So we're going to do the equation of B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC times cosine of B. Fill in what you know. We know B is 5 squared equals A 11 squared plus C 6.5 squared. Yes, you have to use that rounded number. We can't avoid it. Okay. Minus 2 times 11 times 6.5 times cosine of B. Now, this one, I would encourage you to do some more pencil paperwork before you totally jump to the calculator. Just because there's more solving involved, right? It's not just computing. We know 5 squared is 25. 11 squared, 121. 6.5 squared, 42.25. Minus 2 times 11 times 6.5. 143 cosine of B. We have a step of cleanup we can do on the right, yes. Like terms. So I'm going to have 25 equals 163.25 minus 143 cosine B. Are we up to that point? What's next? Okay. We're working to get B by itself. So first of all, and I'm not going to always write this out, I just am as the first example. We're going to subtract the 163.25 over to the left. 25 minus 163.25. negative 138.25 equals negative 143 cosine B. Notice that number in front of cosine keeps staying attached to it, right? It can't add and subtract to other things. Now what's my next step? Okay. We're going to divide the negative 143 away from the cosine B. So at that point, I'm going to have cosine B equals, I'm not going to divide it yet, but what do I know? A negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. So you can leave the two negatives, that's fine. But I'm going to write mine as cosine B equals 138.25 over 143. Remind me, how do we find B? This is the inverse function, right? To separate cosine B, you're doing the inverse function. So B is going to be cosine inverse of 138.25 over 143. Angle B works out to be 14.8 degrees. Now, before that bell rings, tell me, how do I find my last piece of this puzzle? Subtract from 180, right? All three angles in a triangle add up to be 180. So angle A plus angle B plus angle C equal 180. And that's your final piece on this problem. So angle A is what I'm trying to find. Plus 14.8 plus 20 equals 180. Angle A ends up being, according to my notes, 145.2. And we'll pick up on the next one tomorrow. This is one. Had you tried to find angle A with law of cosines, it would have given you an error. It wouldn't have worked. It would have given you an error or an incorrect angle. I don't remember which. So.